Welcome to Unlocked. I'm Dr. Joel Swakowski, and in this show, we explore how truth comes to life through real stories and real people. Today, I'm joined by my friend, Laura Lenhart. She is a chief financial officer. She is a CPA. She's very successful professionally and personally. For years now, she's been passionate about helping women grow professionally and personally, spending hours every week mentoring multiple women. She's also co-founded the organization Flowcess and co-founded the organization Illuminate that hosts women's leadership conferences. And all that is still just a surface level description. So let's get deeper. Here's the interview. Hello, Laura. Thanks for being on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hi, Joel. I am so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you finally. And now
Finally.
I just have one question for you because I already introduced you to my audience. How did this financial geek, if you will, turn into this woman who's a leader, who is passionate about and
Mm,
is empowering other women?
um, don't all nerdy accountants become passionate about helping people grow personally? What?
Not many that I met. Now, granted, I don't know a lot of accountants.
Sure.
Yeah.
No. Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's been a journey. It has been a journey. And as all good stories, I'll go back to the beginning maybe.
Yeah.
I think what really shaped me, and I think a lot of stories are similar, my childhood, right? I'm a military brat, came from a military family, and, it's kind of fun now. I'm on Facebook with other groups of military kids, and it's funny how we were sort of shaped by a lot of the same, and with a lot of similarities based on our upbringing. And I think the first one is because we moved so much. In the military, you often move. We moved every 1 to 3 years. And so I think one of the first commonalities a lot of us have, and what you'll notice about us, is that it's hard for us to have deep relationships because when you move so much, the first few times you moved, you might have gotten close to someone, but it hurts to move. It hurts to leave.
Yeah.
And so you don't develop those deep relationships. You just kind of jump in, kind of a little more superficial, have fun. I had a great childhood. I loved military life, but I know that affected me. And another one is not being around family and relatives, people you are bonded to. We were a lot of military families aren't well off. And so traveling across the country or across the world to see your family is not a luxury a lot of us had. So, and my parents came from poor families who really couldn't afford to come visit us. So I think growing up, I might have seen my extended relatives 4 times. And so,
Oh, wow.
that is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Something I ended up in, I think craving, that family bond.
Yeah.
Another one for me, I think growing up was having a parent that was gone so much. A lot of us military kids, and back in my day, it was often the dad. The dads were gone. My dad was gone 3 to 6 months out of the year. He is a very loving father. I knew I was loved. When he was there, he was present, but he was just gone a lot. And that, changes sort of the dynamics of a family when your dad is gone so much, which also left my mother to raise
With
us,
the
to
burden on her.
the
Yeah.
burden, to be
Yeah.
the leader, to have this, her husband's in the military, who knows where he is and all the dangers he's in. We were very aware of the world dangers growing up. So she was amazing, this old, strong, and a lot of the moms, I would say, that I experienced living around us, the kids in our neighborhood, their moms, these strong, you know, responsible, wonderful women. So I was surrounded by some incredible women growing up that had to really kind of bond together to help each other through this life that we were in. So I think that really sort of shaped me into being very resilient, to being fiercely independent.
Yeah.
You sort of kind of have to be independent to just kind of get along in that kind of world. But also, you're a veteran, so you know this part. The military mission is big. Protect and defend the United
Yeah.
States of America.
It's quite the cause to bond over, right? And to be
Right.
under, to be
This
operating in.
this whole community focused on this one cause. Well, that has a deep impact on a person. Like, I
Right. And
want
I
to
know
make a deep
first
impact.
oh, for sure. And
Yeah.
I know firsthand, as you know, I was single when I was in the Marines, but there was the culture is very much the families and the spouses, the kids are as much a part of this mission as the service member themselves. So yeah, I definitely could see how that mission would have been something you would have grabbed a hold of as well as being a part of.
Right.
Yeah.
To want to make this deep impact on in the
Yeah.
world was really strong from a very young age. Even I think just me personally, just having a fire to make an impact was just something in me, I think, very young. And but partially supported and championed by the kind of lifestyle we were in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, my dad was in the military for 22 years, of which 17 of it I was right there alongside them. So it was my entire childhood, and so
Oh
that
yeah.
that made a difference. It was
Oh, for
great though. It
sure.
was super fun.
Right. So that definitely played a part in the foundation of your entire life, right? That was the foundation of your entire life. So
Right. So
what
I go from this.
you didn't join the military though, right?
I actually started to sign up right
Did
after
you
high
really?
school. I did. I was going to go in the Air Force.
Oh yeah.
Um, I actually had gone down to the recruiting station and I signed something, but a couple days later, I was like, this is not the path I'm supposed to be on. And
Yeah.
my dad just said, I'll take care of it. And he took care
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, as
of
he would.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But this set me up, so I have this childhood. It was great. Living on military bases is a very safe and it feels very safe and secure. I mean, you're surrounded by protection and all that. So my dad retired my senior year of actually, it was my last semester of high school. And so I transitioned into adulthood pretty hard. It was a really hard transition.
Cool. 'Cause it's not
My
just
dad,
your high school, but like the whole world is changing for you. Like everything you've known is different.
everything. So there were
Oh,
I kind of pin them down to two different big changes for me that ended up launching me into adulthood. The first was going from military life to civilian life, which is very different. And my parents want moving to Wisconsin, which is a northern Midwestern state that I did not have really any bonds with. We had maybe visited it once or twice that with memories I might have, very short ones, but certainly nothing to understand the actual culture of there. So it was quite different than what I had been experiencing. So, and I remember, again, so this is my last semester of high school. So I'm almost an adult, I'm driving up there. My parents had dreamt their whole military careers of having a big house out in the woods, and they had friends that lived there. So for them, there was this deep connection there.
yeah.
I didn't have that. So they got their big house out in the woods, and I remember driving up to Wisconsin that first time and experiencing the snow. It was right around Easter, right after it was really cold. It was still snowy, and every time we would stop, I'd have to put another layer on and another layer on, and then I'm going through the countryside, seeing no, very normal things for Wisconsin, farms and just things I had never experienced before. And I remember telling them to please stop the car. I had to get out and see a cow face to face. It was
Oh,
just
really?
huge and it was just weird. It's like still this weird memory of that transition in my life.
Yeah.
And then I always tell the story too of my parents had this 40 acres, beautiful,
Wow.
land out in the country, this beautiful home. And I remember laying in bed and you could look out the window and see the stars. It was just gorgeous. And I have never felt so scared in my
Oh, really?
entire life. It was so quiet. I felt so exposed. You're just
Yeah.
out in this vastness versus a military base where you can't even get on it without proper authority and, IDs and stuff. Like you're just so protected on a military base. And now I'm out in this huge, vast land. It was really odd for me, just nerve-wracking. So that was my big transition, to just this weird new life. And I ended up having one goal that last semester of high school was to get moving with my life
Yeah.
as soon as
Yeah.
possible. And I knew I was just confident I could do the adult life. I had a plan for my happiness, not that I could have like articulated it like I can now in hindsight, but oh, I had watched all the movies and I had read all the magazines and all those books of happily ever after. I knew how to do this. And so
Yeah.
I just walked right out, as soon as I could and started my adulthood, which was pretty funny. So that
Which what
was
did that equal then? That go you, after high school, college, was that the route you went?
I didn't go to college immediately because I really didn't have my bearings of just where did I want to settle down.
Yeah.
I was in a rush to get out of Wisconsin. I did leave briefly for 6 months, and then at the end of the day, realized being with family meant more than being somewhere without family. So I didn't want to spend another 20 years of my life without family. So I did come back, but I just didn't have my bearings. So I just worked until I could start going to college, which I did pretty quick. But so that was my little transition, and little Laura walking off in confidence that she has this plan for happiness, which with some pretty painful experiences, I came to one of the first critical learnings that I think has propelled me into the life I am now. And that is the the strategy women have for happiness that is so common for so many women. And it's what I call the four box strategy.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
if I can get these four things, they will for sure get me to my happily ever after life.
Yeah.
And those four boxes are getting married, or having getting a house, getting a job, and having kids. Those are the four common things that if we can attain, we're going to be happy. And so
Yeah.
I I went after it. I Like I said, I wanted to move quick, so I I first went after the husband. I decided I was gonna try to just get that one checked off, and so I did. Check. Got my
Yeah.
husband.
Okay. Alright. Yeah.
And it's fun, right? You feel happy and excited for a bit
Yeah.
until you, um, hit some conflicts that you don't have a lot of tools to handle, and then it's not a life of bliss. But honestly, Joel, it was only a quarter of the strategy. So of course I'm not gonna be blissfully happy yet.
It makes sense you wouldn't be happy,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah.
So we move on for us, it was to get a house. And that was exciting. And and you feel like such an adult, and it's fun to be able to pick your home. It's a blessing to be able to get a home, honestly.
Yeah, it really
And
is.
it
But
is. It is. And but there's a lot of responsibility with home ownership, and I still wasn't blissfully happy, but I'm only halfway there.
yeah, right? No
No
wonder
worries.
you're not happy yet.
No worries. I'm not on,
Yeah.
just blissful every day.
Right?
So then I had children. I had my daughter and my son. They're amazing. I'm
Yeah.
so blessed to have these children. Children are a lot of work. A
Yeah.
lot of, boy, a life in your hands that you have to care for and nurture and cherish and help grow. Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yep.
Another blessing, but blissfully happy.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But Joel, I'm only 3/4 of the way
Right.
there. Come
Of
on.
course you weren't happy yet, right?
And so then I got the job, became an accountant, got my CPA. I moved quickly through my career, and I've had a very successful career. But Joel, I had all four, and I was not on top of the world. What?
Oh, what happens at that point then?
You go back to those movies and you're like, wait a minute. No,
Right?
honestly, Joel, you do it, you go another round. Something must be wrong. You must need to go around. Um, but actually, this is where a lot of women and just you see the mental health crisis in our country and in so much of the world
It's a
is just at an
pandemic.
all-time high. And a lot of it is because of these expectations for happiness. And when they don't happen, it often leads
Right.
to depression.
Yeah.
And you see it if a woman can't find a man, she's depressed.
Yeah.
If she can't afford a house, she's depressed. And when she goes to have children, oftentimes children is the last box a lot of women will go. And by that time, you are expecting this this plan to bring this happiness, and when it doesn't, there's a medical term that we've now seen shown up for women who have that fourth box checked off and they're not blissfully happy, and it is called postpartum depression.
Oh,
So, and
so
even
wait a minute.
Mhm.
That's like, well, this is revelatory, right? It's like how many people know that's the direct result of the 4 box strategy?
Yeah, well, and I would say people are unaware of it because the medical world always tries to look at a physical cause like,
Oh, chemical
oh,
imbalance or
there's a
hormones or
chemical imbalance or a hormone versus what
yeah.
is the actual cause of this.
Okay.
This was a plan for her happiness. It didn't make her happy. Yeah, that's going to lead to some imbalances when
Yeah.
she's depressed. So they call it postpartum depression. Now, if this is what I think is even really more interesting is if the child isn't the fourth box. Let's say it was the second or third, and then they get through the fourth, and then she's still depressed. They are now calling that delayed postpartum depression.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's been kind of interesting. But I want women to know you can actually successfully move through this when you realize that postpartum depression is the contradiction you are holding that things are going to make you happy.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that was something I really needed to learn for myself. So unfortunately, what I do see a lot is I mentioned this that the women will start to go for another round. That first round didn't work. I'm depressed. Maybe I need a new house. So let's get the bigger house or the newer house. Let's get a newer job. Let's get another job. Let's try that. It's got to be, that's what it is. Let's have another child. Let's have more children.
That was
And then,
Ryan when I interviewed Ryan for Unlocked. He talked about how like him and Heather, he was literally depressed and he's like dealing with all this guilt and mental health issues. And he's like, you know what we should do? Let's get married. And then
yes.
it's, you know what we should do? Let's have a baby. And you know what we should do? Let's have another baby.
Right.
And I've had friends who've dealt with this too, who've like, I remember a couple I went to high school with who were just really toxic. They ended up getting married. She got pregnant. And about 5 years down the road, their relationship's really hitting the rocks.
Mhm.
And her strategy is, let's have another baby because that was the last time I remember being happy was the time period, like that short window.
Right.
Like it was a blessing. It was
Yes,
great for a
absolutely.
short window.
Yes. Yes.
And that's where it's like, I want that back. So it's like, I'll have another baby to find that again. And it's
Right.
just like, oh, just becomes even just more. So what you want to do when you have no ability to bear your own burden is to add more burden to your
Right,
life.
right,
It's like,
right,
oh, it makes sense though when you understand the way the brain works and
right,
the strategy for happiness, why people end up going this route.
right.
Holy smokes.
And this is the plan, this is the what what we all crave is this long lasting, growing, healthy happiness, right?
Yeah.
That gets better and better, and these strategies are not going to lead to that. And I definitely learned that, and I remember getting through those 4 boxes and really having a moment realizing wait, I'm not getting happier. And you spend your entire life practically, I did for sure, dreaming of these things, right?
Right.
Growing up that I was gonna have a family and I was gonna have a house and I was gonna have a husband and children and this was all gonna I just couldn't wait. It was gonna be amazing. And I remember that epiphany moment when when you're like, "Wait, this I'm not gonna get there with this strategy." Those weren't
Yeah.
necessarily my words, but I felt that. And I felt like such a failure
Oh,
at
really?
every level, Joel. I felt like a
Yeah.
failure as a wife. I felt like a failure as a mom. I felt like a failure as a top executive who had a good career. I mean, I was having an excellent career, but just a failure because I couldn't get to this life of joy and contentment and just this happiness that grew. I couldn't get there with the strategy I had, and it just was like a ton of bricks of failure on me. It
Well,
was a
it's interesting because at the same time, everybody's on the outside is going to be looking at you as the model for happiness, right? Oh, I want Laura's life. She's
oh,
married. She has a house.
absolutely.
She has kids. She's got this great job.
Right,
And then, what's even worse is when we do find out finally that a person who has all these things isn't happy,
right.
we end up convincing ourselves, well, but it'll be
Oh,
different
I
for me.
would.
It's the lottery strategy. I always
Right.
hear the
Yeah,
devastating stories of people winning the lottery and how it's always ruining lives. And they're like, well,
but not me.
if I won the lottery, I'd handle it better. Yeah. But it's things, right? Oh,
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah,
That's
so what I noticed at that point, this is what I've come to really kind of see what women the kind of the path we go from there when we kind of reach that moment is we feel like we need to like we need to give up one of these things because you don't have a lot of tools for how to do this. So it's well, maybe I just need to give up one of these. And honestly, Joel, I would say most women probably give up anything but the kids. But I have been seeing stories, this depression, this mental health crisis in our country is so deep that you're hearing stories of moms not only just abusing their children, but putting them in a car and drowning them.
yeah.
This is like, I got to get one of these things off my plate. And I would have said, yeah, you would have chosen any of those except for your kids. But now I don't know that I can say that anymore, unfortunately. But,
Right.
anyways, you start to see sort of a similar path trying to get out of it. Of this depression. So you'll start to see that maybe they'll try to drop one of these 4 boxes. Now,
Okay.
for me, I was in a very, very challenging marriage and it was a very devastating time for us to kind of get to the point that we made the decision to get divorced. And again, just an epic failure. It felt like, but that was sort of my lowest point was uh, the reality of a path that a lot of women take will be let me get rid of one of these and unfortunately mine was my marriage. It was the healthiest thing to do because it was very much not a good situation, but it led to my lowest moment probably in my life. If I thought I had a plan, it had failed and I didn't have a way out, and it's it's awful. It's just the lowest. I don't know what I'm doing. I've been an epic failure. I've hurt my beautiful children, in the process. And yeah, it was ugly. It was hard.
Yeah, that's brutal. So it's interesting because these 4 boxes end up becoming the achievement you're going after.
Yes.
And then when you get to the point where you realize it didn't work, the 4 boxes become villainized.
Mm,
It's like
right.
they're the fault of
Right.
my happiness
Right.
now,
Right.
which is really backwards too. Both those thought processes are
Yeah.
backwards, but again, I get to the point where it's like you can have those 4 boxes and not be happy, but still not be at your lowest until you start losing, either losing or giving up
Right.
is where it got you to your lowest, where it's like, well, now there's no getting around it anymore, right? Where it's like
Right.
I don't have the 4 boxes anymore. It's
Right.
clear like you said, like I'm a failure. Like these things just aren't working.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. That's yeah, that's tough. That's right around the time that I met you too. So I remember this pretty vividly is like what you were going through at the time when we first met. I think a lot of us who started to, being in community with one another back in those days were going through some pretty trying times. So a lot of us connected over a lot of the feelings of failure. So it was at that time my relationship with my son's mom fell apart and I'm going to be a single dad and it's just like not the life that I had imagined either. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we were both very fortunate. That is the turning point in my story. That led me to where I am today is my cries for help were answered with real information, truth that absolutely
yeah,
was transformative. And that was a huge, huge blessing and change for me. That's what really saved me. And I would say coming out of that and having to really start over with the plan for happiness was learning that step one is learning who you are.
nice.
And it wasn't, especially in my career as an executive in finance, I had awesome companies that took us through a lot of personality testing. And that was never anything that resonated to my core. It was always about how I would handle situations. If I was in, back when I was just all those personality tests, they showed
Yeah.
like back when I was just a starting out accountant, I was, real conscientious and, whatever that aligned very much with the situation I was in. I had to be those things at work. And my personality changed when I became an executive and I had to start reporting to a board and I had a lot more
Or
responsibility.
more leadership stuff
Mhm.
instead of
Yeah,
just task oriented. Every one of
yeah.
those
Everyone.
tests I've taken has been different. And
Right.
the last one I remember taking, it was what I found interesting is that before you even started answering the questions, it prompted me to say, answer these as if they were happening to you at work. So it's right
Mhm.
there, I'm like, well, this is flawed. You want like, you're literally telling me this isn't who I am then.
Right.
This is just how will I relate to people in this specific role. So this, even if it's accurate, it's only going to apply at a place that I'm working 8 hours a
Right.
day. Every
Exactly.
other area of my life, it's not going to work.
Right. And I was kind of offended by it. I shouldn't have been if I had understood personality testing more versus, what I've come to know now, and just realized that you just had to be those things in those circumstances, I would have been fine. But I remember on one of the personality tests, it was like domineering or controlling. It was like, I don't want to be domineering,
No.
but in my role, I had to be, in control. I had to, um, you know, handle those really tough kind of moments. And so anyways, I just remember like actually being kind of hurt and offended by it. I'm like, that's not me. I remember like thinking that's not
Because it doesn't
me.
get to why
Right.
you're doing those things,
Mm-mm.
right? Which is what you're
Exactly.
arguing for. Like, but that's not who I am. That's just what
No.
I did in this moment. Because
Yes. So the big help that I got, obviously, step one, learning who I am at my core, who I
yeah,
am intrinsically, which led to creating a company that we now teach this in so much detail.
yeah,
Flowsets.com. Please feel free.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
for sure.
anyways, that was really. the biggest turning point towards my path to long lasting happiness is learning who I was and embracing it and learning to be her more and more and communicating it to others so that they, to, not only just to others, but especially to others that understood who they were. Then we were, all able to be more and more of who we were created to be. And then started then you started to feel the little blossoming of lasting joy. Like you could feel it coming. And I would say for women, especially just because that's my passion, I did notice that even as we're starting, we're really trying to understand who we are. And for me, what really helped was growing my self esteem and
Yeah,
who
okay.
I was.
Yeah,
And that was really a very interesting time in my life to learn the levels of self esteem because I could measure where I was in different situations,
yeah,
whether at work or with friends or with my children. And, so I was able to tell, there's no self esteem. This is the person who actually feels better about themselves at the expense of someone else by putting someone else down. Or
yeah,
you see that on a lot of the reality TV now. They're just trashing another person in order to try to feel good about themselves very momentarily. This is not a lasting happiness strategy. So that's no self esteem. I don't think I struggled too much with that. But low self esteem was feeling better about myself, good about myself momentarily, still it's short term. When someone I didn't know would compliment me or affirm me, and this one just breaks my heart because you see this so prevalent now in culture, especially around social media, where the self-worth or the feeling good momentarily about yourself revolves around how many likes you get on your social media, things like that. Or, back in the day, it would have been walking down the street and the guy whistles at you and you feel good about yourself momentarily. It's like you don't even know him. You don't
right.
know these people. They're affirming you and you're allowing yourself to feel good about yourself. So that's a low self esteem person. And I had those moments in certain areas of my life where I was lower self esteem. And as I continued to, really live out more and more of who I was, learned more deeply about who I was, I moved up to mid self esteem. And I do remember this period of being at mid self esteem. So now I'm going to feel a little bit better about myself. I'm starting to understand who I am. And I feel better about myself when someone I know and probably most likely respect in a particular situation affirms me or compliments me. So if my boss said something good about me, about my financial, acumen or whatever, I would feel better about myself because she, is a good, a leader that people look up to. And so it was interesting when I had those moments like knowing I was feeling good about in a certain situation because I was affirmed by someone, who knew me and I looked up to, and I'm like, "Oh, that was a mid self-esteem moment." It's not bad, it's
yeah.
just a growth, it's a journey,
Oh, yeah,
but I do like, I was aware of it in the moment, like, "Oh, I feel good about myself, and okay, that's mid self-esteem, let's keep going, we wanna get to high self-esteem."
yeah.
And, that's when you're obviously fully confident in who you are. And actually, when someone affirms you in the right way, affirms you for who you are and for your gifts and talents, you are actually looking up to them. You're like, you get it. You're awesome. And
Yeah. Like you
high
really see
self-esteem,
me. Yeah.
yeah. And that's where you start to see women. Oh, it's so rewarding to see a woman get to high self-esteem and for a group of high self-esteem women to interact with each other. It's I I know my value. I know the gift I am to the world and you know yours and we're just going to have a great time enjoying
There's no
enjoy
it dissolves competition when they're
absolutely.
all high self-esteem.
We can
So,
all
I
win here.
right, I appreciate you because that's not me, but the world needs it,
Yeah,
and I don't have to provide it.
right.
I
Right.
can just be me. I don't wanna be you because that sounds like it'd be really hard for me to try to be you. I'd rather
Right.
just be That's what happens when you have a bunch of high self-esteem
Oh,
people around each
it
other.
is. It is awesome. It's
Yeah,
awesome, and I just I I just get so much joy out of it.
yeah,
So, as I was growing in on this new path to happiness, then I met the man of my dreams. And, we're about to celebrate 15 years of marriage just in a few days. And as we reflect back, literally, and this is no exaggeration, every year has gotten better. Year over year over year has been better. Just life is so much, you know, more meaningful. It's so just being able to live out who you are with people. My friendships are deeper. Everything I had longed for as a child, I couldn't have those deep connections because I was afraid I was going to get hurt. And that was a journey to getting there as an adult because I had to allow myself to open up and be vulnerable,
she's a risk.
and take a risk. Right,
Yeah,
exactly. But I did with some amazing women, and now I have the most beautiful friendships, relationships with, I'm just so blessed. And so a lot of that came as I grew more and more into who I was created to be. And now, you know, then then that kind of got me thinking. Because every at work and just out in the community, you just see so many hurting women, and they just don't have the tools are that you can really apply to your life that bring transformation, that bring that change. And we had started Flowcess, and I'm so grateful for our ability, our ability to be able to help the world with that information, to understand who you are and how to live it out. But I just couldn't get over the passion for women that I had. I just craved for the women to really shine and understand that they are this incredible value. And I think in culture, we just got, you know, pushed down a lot. And
yep,
I really just had the strong desire and passion to help them. And so even way back in 2007, I was talking about having conferences to help women learn information to transform their lives. But it was actually many years later, last year, actually, I was a co founder of an organization that is now Illuminate. And it is basically our mission to help women really learn who they are and live out their best lives. And so last year we had our first conference in the United States and 2024, and then we were invited over to Scotland to do a conference there, and then we just finished our second annual conference here in the US, and
yeah,
it's
congrats.
been spectacular. It is
Yeah,
just spectacular. And now we're starting to really kind of get the traction on focusing in how we're gonna help these women long term. But honestly, I have a great career. I'm a CFO, and it's wonderful. I'm very blessed to have it. But until my dying breath, I want to be helping women, Joel. That's all I want to
yeah.
do.
So okay, you found the healthy happiness, right?
Yes. Year
The
over year, not just with my husband, but
right,
just as a person, like just this continuous growth has led to a very healthy happiness. Like, because I know who I am, I'm able to pour into other people. I know how to continue to grow myself, and I have so much to give. I just am so passionate about giving it all away. And uh yeah, so not just healthy happiness, joy, contentment,
joy.
all those
Yeah,
things you hear people say they want. I believe I'm living it out.
yeah. So, but you're married. You have a house, a nice apartment in
Apartment
Miami, right?
in Miami.
Yeah, very nice. A job that I mean is demanding but very, very successful, and you're good at it. You have kids and you're happy. So the 4 boxes didn't bring you happiness. The 4 boxes didn't weren't your demise. So the 4 boxes in and of themselves aren't good or bad necessarily, right?
Right,
I guess it all depends on what's your approach towards them.
right. Because step one is being who you were created to be.
Right.
or learning who you are and living that out. Then when you go to interact with these things, you're not looking for those things to bring you the happiness. You are being yourself in those situations, and the happiness is from within. And now
Right.
I'm able to have an awesome marriage because I'm bringing me to to this table. I'm able to be a mom, that can give to my children, to really help them and not look to them to
To
bring me
bring you happy.
happiness, which I don't have control over.
Yeah.
I am helping me be the best me, and then that me gets to go out and just sow and help other people, and that's, where that joy is coming
And
from.
bringing yourself to your job, and even your
Yeah,
house is like instead of seen as a place that brings you happiness or a place that should be looked, because really it's like looked at by other people as a great place to live, it becomes a place where it's a safe place for you to be yourself
right.
and whoever else is there with you. I can't help but see.
The apartment serves us,
Right.
it's not, I'm not looking for it, to bring, to bring me happiness, right?
So I can't help but see how your story kind of comes full circle then, because you briefly talked about your mom being this incredible woman who you looked up to. I can't help but see how you had all these strong women in your life as a young girl and growing up in your formative years, and the passion you have now to foster that same, ability intentionally. How do we intentionally make strong women and develop
Right,
strong women?
right.
Your mom had these 4 boxes too, and so I can see how maybe if you don't understand why she was happy, that would be like, well, then I need to have a husband, I need to have kids, I need to
Right.
have a house, and I need to have a job or hobbies or something to do,
Right.
right? What was it about your mom? Like, because Susan was an incredible woman too.
Yes.
So I think she's this really great contrast too of like, it isn't, it's not the 4 boxes, and it's not the 4 boxes, if you
Right,
will. So, like, let's not villainize them, let's not idolize
right,
them.
right.
Is that a lesson you can
Well,
talk to
and
me about as far as your mom goes too?
absolutely, I'd love to share that, and just again, these 4 boxes, you can't expect them to bring you happiness
Right.
is the message, but, oh, my mom, Susan Marie Story
Yeah.
Mentor.
Yeah.
She was a beautiful woman, and I think what was so different, and I was so blessed to have her as a mom, um, she obviously didn't have the information I have now, but she operated from who she really was.
Yeah.
So if you go to flowsess.com, you'll learn these things. But my mom was a compassion server, as we call it. So this is an intrinsic motivation. This would give her energy to be this. This is her core. So she would feel whatever need there was. She would connect with people wherever they were at for whatever need in order to to bear their pain, to care for them. And
Yeah.
she was stellar at it.
Yeah.
And my mom had a very tragic childhood. She she has spoken about this, so this is nothing my mom has passed away, and from a brain aneurysm. It was another whole tragic story, um, but she had shared very freely about her experiences in order to help other people. So she had a very tragic childhood, sexually abused, very, very bad, very bad. Her father had died of alcoholism. So she had all this tragedy that if she had gotten stuck in that being her identity or her worth stuck in that, she would have just been another statistic of a sad life. But
A
she,
survivor.
mhm,
Yeah.
but she for whatever reason, and I believe it was God. My mom had a great faith that that she was told early, I feel like from God, because there wasn't a lot of people in her life that would have told her this, but that, you are worthy and you are special. And but she got into that groove really early, whether it was being a military wife and she just had to stand strong. I don't know if that really, uh, you know rose her up in a certain way. And she was so fun. So my mom was this extremely sweet, compassionate, caring woman. But one of the stories of her boldness I like to share is when we lived in Virginia, Fort Eustis, I believe. My brother would have soccer practice on a big soccer field. There was like a park, and it was lots of fields out there. But if the commander of the base needed to get in and out of town, out of the base, they would pull a helicopter down for him on the field. And if the kids were there was never any notice. If the kids were playing, you see a helicopter dropping, you had to get out of the way. And she
Wow.
was just so livid because it was dangerous. You have all these little kids and these are massive helicopters, by the
Yeah.
way. And so she wrote a letter to the commanding general of the entire base and told him how she felt about that. And, in a lovely way, but very boldly, very strongly. I wish I could have seen like her and like my dad going, "Oh my gosh, you're going to do what?"
Yeah.
And she's,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna let him know." But anyways, they changed hit the process for moving him off of that field because of her letter. So I love that story, just as boldness. But anyway, so she was able to really live out who she was. She was very humble to share her story of her childhood. She used that story to help so many people wherever, with any tragedy. She had lost a father, she had been sexually abused, all of those things, and had been healed to be able to live a meaningful life beyond that. And um, at her funeral, there were so many people there. I think my siblings and I were just shocked at the amount of people and all the stories. The
Yeah.
stories just blew us out of the water. My mom had been meeting with young girls through the county services. My sister actually worked in the county services, and I think to help kind of coordinate this. But she would go in and talk to these young girls about her story. These were girls that had been sexually abused, and would share with them her story and help them on the path towards getting healed from that. I had no idea she was doing that. She had gotten Ramsay Hunt, which is kind of a palsy, really changed a lot in her life and what she could do for quite a while. What was the first thing she did after she learned what it was and how to manage it? She was on the internet in the chat rooms with people who would go to find out more about the disease and or the illness and how to live with it. And she ended up becoming the person who would be on tap or on call for the newbies, because she wanted to help them through those first few weeks as they transition into this new normal that was pretty devastating for a lot of people. So and who knew? Like, she's just always out there helping, but living. So this person who was just so much living out who she was created to be, all the energy from her intrinsic, self being shared with the world impacted me. And
Yeah. Very much.
and actually once I started learning the information, had words to the information, she's like, "Well, yeah, that's it." That like it just absolutely settled her that,
Yeah.
of course, I'm a compassion server. That makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And was able to live it more intentionally, and then of course help people with that information going forward. So I was very impacted, so blessed to have a woman, this strong, bold woman who was living out her uniqueness. She just didn't have words for it. And she didn't know how to intentionally help us children necessarily quick
Right.
enough in life to be able to kind of help us not have to go through the painful journey we did. But
Yeah.
I think I would have been a completely different person if I had not had such an amazing role model of my
Yeah.
mom. Yeah, she was
Well, I
beautiful.
can't imagine what she would think about Illuminate. I imagine she'd wanna be at every conference and she'd wanna be involved some way for sure.
I think she'd be so much like your mom. And so I think your mom and my mom would have been the first tickets sold. They
Oh,
would be
yeah.
The
Yeah.
they would have brought people, they would be the biggest champion,
They'd be, writing
absolutely.
down notes the whole
Yes,
time,
the
right?
whole time,
Yep.
because 'cause I'm gonna go from here, and I'm gonna help the next 20 people in my
Oh,
view,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
So,
Selling
very
tickets,
much
oh,
very
for sure.
similar. Yes.
Well, Laura, thank you so much. Honestly, like, this is the first I love the way you told your story because I'm really starting to see, like, I think you are not only living a legacy that
Mm,
really I think your mom would be proud of, but is also the picture of discipleship and like the next generation bringing forward more truth
yes,
for the following
yes,
generations. Not
yes,
only taking what your mom did, like the strong woman who was living out her uniqueness, and you're doing that too, but one more step further of being able to help other women do that on purpose.
yes.
And I can't wait to see what that next generation
Oh,
does with what you're doing. Like what I'm seeing is more and more truth getting out there, more and more people empowered to live in their uniqueness, and less damage on the way to that.
yes, yes,
And I think that's what's beautiful about your story because it shows how your mom was a part of this. And it also shows what can happen through Illuminate in the future. So
yes. Oh, thank you. I'm so
thank you.
excited.
Yes, thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful story. We'll definitely have to have you on again. I'd
Thank
love
you.
to have you and John on together
Ooh,
sometime.
that'd be fun.
That'd be great. Have maybe one of, maybe a story with both of you in it. But
That'd be great.
until then, thank you so much. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, my friend. See you
Okay.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to Laura. What an incredible interview. What an incredible story. What an incredible legacy that she's leaving. So one of the things right off the bat that struck me is her description of growing up in a military home and the safety and security she felt, and how she said she had a wonderful childhood. Now, those two things I think go hand in hand. One of the things I've learned over the years is nobody grows if they don't feel safe. So her childhood, I think she was able to express herself and to be free to grow because of the safety and security that she felt as a kid. We all need that. That's not just a childhood thing. And the Bible talks about us being nourished and cherished. Those two things also go hand in hand. Nourishing somebody is growing them. It's the teaching, it's the confrontation. Cherishing is the caring for them. That's the providing a safe place, bearing their pain, lifting them up. We need both. If all I'm doing is caring for you, but never teaching, never growing, if all I'm doing is helping you feel good, but never caring, never teaching, never confronting, that turns into enabling. If all I'm doing is the nourishing side, if all I'm doing is teaching and confronting and growing, but I'm not caring, I'm not providing a safe place, you won't grow. It won't stick, if you will. We need both. And as a nourisher myself, I tend to be quick to confront, quick to teach. I had to learn that providing a safe place for people, being caring first, is part of the journey of me being a teacher. So, one of the things I think is important for everybody, especially leaders, is to provide a safe place for the people that you're caring for, provide a safe place for the people that you're leading. Another thing that really struck a chord with me personally was the transition from military life to civilian life for her. I had a tough time with that. I was at my deepest depression, similarly to Laura, and coming to terms with I had this great 4 years in the Marine Corps from ages 19 to 23, and my purpose was in what I did, right? I felt really great about being a Marine. I was good at it. I got promoted a bunch in those first 4 years, ending at E5 sergeant, like really successful for a 23-year-old. And all of a sudden I get out of the Marine Corps, I come back home to Wisconsin, and my identity is gone. So there was this massive culture shock from going from military to civilian life. And the Marine Corps just wasn't suited to actually help me transition. They did their best. They put you through some classes to try to set you up for civilian life, but none of it actually gets to the things that Laura brought to the surface that we all need. And she talked primarily about women, but we all need. is to understand who we are. And ultimately, if I could go back to those days, I'd want to teach myself who I am and help myself grow in self-esteem. But part of that also was just giving me something to focus on, giving me a purpose, which really is an effect of my uniqueness. So I love that Laura talked about this idea of like the first two things we help people with. She said the first thing we help people with is uniqueness, right? Got to know who you are walking into a situation or dealing with a situation coming on to you. And the second thing is thought process, which Flowcess covers both those things, and the Illuminate conference teaches both of those things. Discovering who you are and helping you get into the right thought process so you can grow your self-esteem. That would have been the key for both Laura and I to be able to transition from military to civilian life. Do you know who you are? And do you know how to operate in your thought process well enough to grow your self-esteem, to grow that confidence in who God created you to be? That would have been the key to us finding our purpose, something to go towards that would help us bring out more of ourselves into the world. That would be the model I've covered in previous episodes before, is the model of are, do, have. Are, do, have means who you are determines what you do, determines what you have. The world wants to tell you what you have determines what you do, determines who you are. If I have this great truck, I can do this tough guy work and I will be a strong man. Or the four boxes: have a husband, have a house, have kids, have a job. Those are all following that same have, do, are model. So that's really the devastation behind all this, is the four boxes. When those become the thing that is expected to bring you happiness, is why it leads to depression. So Laura did a great job explaining all of that. Thanks to her again. And if you are struggling with any of this stuff, with determining who you are or learning how to build your self-esteem, if you're a woman, definitely look into the Illuminate organization. You can go to illuminateyourjourney.org. I'll put a link in the description. You can find out some information about past events, and then you can stay up to date. Follow them on social media and all that stuff too, as far as future events that will come out of the Illuminate organization. And if you want to learn more about who you are and about the way your mind and brain work, then go to flowcess.com. And the proprietary model, the latest and greatest, and the only representation of the non-contradictory model for the mind and the brain, can be taught there or learned there. And yeah, you can be on the journey to becoming more and more that person you were designed to be. Thank you again, Laura, for bringing such great information to the table and for sharing your journey with us. That's it for today on Unlocked. I'm Dr. Joel Swakowski. Yeah, I already said it. Go to flowcess.com, go to illuminateyourjourney.org. You can find Laura on social media as well. If you want to chat to her, go check out those resources and keep learning. Thank you for listening. Keep seeking truth and keep living it out. See you next time.